Emily Hartman was 20 years old when she vanished. A junior at the University of Washington, majoring in child psychology. She was bright, compassionate, and grounded. Friends said she had an old soul, wise beyond her years, and a smile that could ease any storm. Raised in the quiet coastal town of Astoria, Oregon, Emily was the youngest of 4 siblings in a devout Christian family. She had grown up among the pine trees, wind-whipped cliffs, and salt-air beaches. Summers were sacred in her household, full of bonfires, family hikes, and late-night board games. In June 2011, Emily returned home for the break. It was a time to reconnect with her roots, earn some extra cash, and prepare for her final year at college. Her sister, Lindsay, had recently given birth and asked Emily to help out at the small real estate office she managed downtown. Emily agreed without hesitation. The job was simple: answering phones, updating listings, and helping tidy up a few rental properties. It was flexible and quiet, leaving Emily enough time to study, run along the boardwalk each morning, and meet friends for coffee. On June 22, a sunny Wednesday, Emily left the house at 8 a.m. sharp. Her mom packed her a small lunch, turkey sandwich, apple slices, and her favorite almond cookies, and waved her off with a cheerful, "Don't forget sunscreen." She wore a lavender blouse, denim capris, and white sneakers. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail. Lindsay had asked her to clean a vacant rental unit on Birch Street that morning, a 2-bedroom, first-floor apartment with chipped paint and a leaky faucet. Emily was supposed to text when she finished, but that text never came. By 1 p.m., Lindsay grew anxious. She called Emily's phone. No answer. She texted twice. Nothing. She drove by the Birch Street apartment around 1:30 p.m. The front door was slightly ajar. Inside, everything seemed undisturbed, except Emily's phone sat on the counter, along with her water bottle and backpack. Her lunch was untouched. But outside, on the sidewalk near the bushes, Lindsay found one of Emily's sneakers. The laces were broken, and the sole had a smear of fresh mud, as if it had scraped along the ground. Lindsay's heart dropped. She called 911 at 1:47 p.m. The air in Astoria felt heavier that afternoon. Detective Claire Ramirez arrived at the Birch Street apartment by 2:23 p.m., a 12-year veteran of the Clatsop County Sheriff's Department. She had dealt with her fair share of missing persons, but something about this call sat wrong with her from the start. "She's not the type to run off," Lindsay told her, still wringing her hands, eyes locked on the lone white sneaker on the sidewalk. "She always texts. Always." Claire knelt beside the shoe. The broken lace looked frayed, not cleanly torn. Something forceful had happened here, something sudden. Inside the apartment, Emily's phone remained on the counter. Claire picked it up with a gloved hand. No recent calls. The last text had been sent at 10:14 a.m. to Lindsay. "Just got here. This place is a mess lol. I'll get started. Talk soon." Nothing after that. Her lunchbox was sealed tight, her water bottle half full. There was a half-folded cleaning rag on the sink and a lemon-scented spray bottle resting beside it. Everything suggested she had barely begun. "Does she have a boyfriend?" Claire asked. "No, she dated someone in college, but that ended last semester. She was focused on school and family this summer. Honestly, Emily doesn't have enemies. She's kind, careful, the type that double-checks whether her headlights are off before she leaves the car." Claire nodded, silently filing the image of a responsible, loved, and reliable young woman. She looked around the complex, 12 units in 2 L-shaped buildings, surrounded by tall trees and a small parking lot that backed into the woods. There were no surveillance cameras. A man in his 50s wearing a Seahawks hat watched from a second-floor balcony. 2 teens whispered from behind a parked sedan. Claire flagged her partner, Officer Dana Ridge, and began going door to door. Out of the first 8 apartments, 2 tenants had left for work. 3 claimed they hadn't seen anything. 1 said their dog had barked oddly that morning but they ignored it. And another, a retired veteran, said he'd heard a woman yell around 10:30 a.m., but thought it was kids messing around. Claire scribbled notes. Something about that timeline stood out. 10:30 a.m., roughly 15 minutes after Emily sent her last text. "What about vehicle sightings?" she asked Ridge. "Funny you mention it," Ridge replied. A fisherman named Walt called earlier, said he saw a green SUV speeding out from the back alley by the rental office around that same time. Nearly clipped his truck. Did he catch the plate? Nope. Said he was too busy slamming his brakes. But he swears it wasn't a local plate. Thought it might have been Idaho or Montana. Claire narrowed her eyes. A random SUV. A missing girl. A scream. A broken sneaker. She didn't believe in coincidence. By sundown, a formal search had begun. Volunteers fanned out with flashlights, calling Emily's name. Police dogs combed the woods behind Birch Street. The Hartman family church opened its doors to organize the community search effort. Lindsay's husband printed flyers. Emily's photo, brown hair, soft eyes, gentle smile, was now on every utility pole and bulletin board from Birch Street to Highway 101. At midnight, the sheriff held a press conference. We are treating this as a suspicious disappearance. At this time, foul play has not been ruled out. We urge anyone with information to come forward. The press pounced. A young, white, female college student vanishing in broad daylight? It was the kind of case that caught fire fast. By the next morning, FBI agents had joined the case. Agent Nathan Wilkes, a tall, wiry man with a relentless reputation, took over as liaison. He met with the Hartmans privately, gently asking questions, taking inventory of every detail: boyfriends, exes, stalkers, jealous classmates, nothing of concern. But Claire had a different feeling. She returned to Birch Street alone around 5 a.m. Something gnawed at her. She walked the tree line behind the complex. Dew clung to the overgrown grass. A beer can, a cigarette butt. She collected them both. Then, tucked beneath a tangle of weeds just past the fence, she found something else. A thin strip of silver duct tape. Wrinkled, one edge torn like it had been pulled hastily from a roll. A smear of pink lip gloss on it. She held her breath. Emily always wore a shade called Sweet Peony. The lab results came back faster than expected. By noon the next day, Detective Claire Ramirez received a call from the State Forensics Unit in Salem. The strip of duct tape she had found behind the rental unit tested positive for two things: human skin cells, and a faint trace of Emily Hartman's saliva mixed with lip product. Claire closed her eyes and sighed. Confirmation. She pressed her palms into the dashboard of her unmarked cruiser. Eyes locked on the rental complex across the street. Somewhere behind those quiet windows, someone had seen something. She could feel it in her gut. But it wasn't just the tape that had her attention. She had been reviewing door-to-door statements when she saw it. Apartment 2B. A tenant named Jimmy Brody had checked in and out of the building 3 days prior to Emily's disappearance. A transient with a short-term lease. Jimmy had left the day Emily went missing and hadn't returned since. The property manager said he'd paid cash. Claire walked up the stairs to 2B. The door was locked, the curtains drawn. She knocked twice. No answer. From the neighboring unit, a young woman in a gray hoodie stepped out and whispered, "Are you here about the guy with the red hat?" Claire turned. Red hat? Yeah, the guy who was staying in that apartment. He wore this bright red baseball cap all the time. Asked me once if I liked to take walks in the woods. Creeped me out. What else do you remember? The girl shrugged nervously. He kept pacing at night. Sometimes stood on the balcony for hours. Just smoking and staring. I thought maybe he was just weird. Not dangerous. Did you see him the morning Emily went missing? She hesitated. I was leaving for work. Maybe 9:45 or so. I saw him coming back from the woods behind the building. He looked sweaty, agitated. His hat was stuffed in his back pocket. Claire scribbled notes quickly. Did he speak to you? No, but he stared hard. Gave me goosebumps. By 2 p.m., Claire had a team inside 2B. The unit smelled of must and tobacco. Crumbs and empty wrappers littered the floor. A mattress on the ground. An empty duffel bag by the closet. But one thing stood out: a single red baseball cap resting beneath the radiator, tucked behind a pair of torn jeans. Claire picked it up with gloved hands. Inside the brim, written in faded black Sharpie, J. Brody, Missoula, MT. Claire called dispatch. Get me anything you can on a James or Jimmy Brody. Born between 1975 and 1990. Last known address in Missoula, Montana. Likely transient. Possible violent record. blank, underscore, blank. Meanwhile, FBI agent Nathan Wilkes was working a different angle. Using license plate scanners from nearby highway checkpoints, he reviewed hours of footage until something hit. A green SUV. 1999 model Chevy Tahoe. No front plate. Faint rust on the passenger door. Spotted heading south on Highway 101 at 10:49 a.m., less than 20 minutes after Emily's last known text. Nathan had the footage enhanced. The driver was male, Caucasian, unshaven, wearing a red hat. Son of a bitch, he muttered. We've got our guy. Within hours, they traced the vehicle to a used car lot outside of Medford. It had been sold 3 days after Emily's disappearance for cash. A woman named Trish, who worked the front desk, remembered the seller clearly. Weird dude, talked fast, wore sunglasses indoors, paid cash, didn't even ask for a receipt. When shown a photo lineup, she pointed immediately. That's him. Number 3. Jimmy Brody. Claire and Nathan met that night over cheap coffee at a 24-hour diner near the precinct. The map between them was covered in red markings: rental unit, SUV sighting, woods, pawn shop, used car lot. Claire tapped the circle around the Birch Street woods. He didn't kill her in the apartment, she said. He lured her, used the back alley, taped her mouth to keep her quiet, dragged her out barefoot, tossed her into the Tahoe. Nathan nodded. She was targeted, not random. He stalked her, picked his moment. Where is he now? Off-grid, but he can't stay invisible forever. Claire looked out the window. The town had already changed. Parents were walking their kids to school in tight formation. Joggers had vanished from the boardwalk. Posters of Emily's face were now joined by newspaper headlines. Local girl still missing, stranger danger in Astoria. Nathan leaned forward. We find the car. We find what's left of him. And maybe, her. Claire nodded. And if he's not the one? Nathan's eyes didn't flinch. Then he's still next in line. The forest behind Birch Street wasn't vast, but it was dense, swallowed by ferns, moss-covered trunks, and ancient Douglas firs that blotted out the sun even at midday. Local kids had grown up daring each other to enter after dark. Few lasted more than 10 minutes. Now, the forest was crawling with deputies, dogs, and the faint crackle of radios. Detective Claire Ramirez led the search team deeper, following a narrow game trail that twisted behind the last row of apartments. She wore a forest green jacket, her holster tight against her hip, eyes scanning the brush for anything that didn't belong. About 50 yards in, one of the cadaver dogs barked. Claire froze. Hold up, she called. What have you got? The handler knelt near a half-rotted log. Dogs fixated here. Might be scent, or it could just be wildlife. Claire approached cautiously. The log was half hollow. Beneath it, buried in the soft earth, something pale protruded. They dug with gloved hands, slow, careful. It wasn't a body, but it was something. A strip of fabric, maybe 6 inches long, floral pattern, torn at the edges. It looked like a sleeve or scarf fragment. Next to it, barely visible under a layer of dirt, was something even more telling. A laminated ID card. Claire wiped it clean with a cloth. Heart thudding. Name: Haley Forrester. Dobb. March 2nd, 1991. Residence: Cannon Beach. OR. Student: Clatsop County Community College. Nathan Wilkes, who had just arrived at the edge of the search zone, walked over and read the card. Who the hell is Haley Forrester? Claire didn't answer immediately. She pulled out her phone. Fingers flying. Haley Forrester, age 21, went missing April 3rd, just 10 weeks ago, from Cannon Beach, 30 miles south of Astoria. Last seen walking home from her shift at a diner around 10 p.m. Her case had gone cold after a week. No signs, no suspects. Her mother had posted daily on a community board, but it hadn't gone viral. Small town, late-night disappearance, no media traction. Claire's stomach turned. We thought Emily was the first. Nathan's jaw clenched. We might be looking at a serial abductor. Blank. Underscore. Blank. By 3 p.m., the forensics team had swarmed the area. Soil samples were collected. The fabric was tagged. The ID card was logged. But most disturbing was what one of the officers found less than 20 feet away. wedged into the bark of a pine tree. A set of initials had been carved crudely into the trunk. HF. 4/3. The date of Haley's disappearance. Claire stared at the carving in silence. This wasn't random. It was a signature. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Back at the station, Claire and Nathan reviewed the Forrester case file. It was thin. A single-page report. Last known location. A few dead-end leads. A security camera had caught a blurry image of a man wearing, what else? A red hat. Sitting on a bench near the diner. The footage was grainy. Timestamped 9:47 p.m. Claire leaned back in her chair. This guy's been hunting. Different towns. Different methods. Same profile. Nathan said grimly. Both girls were around 20. College students. Slim build. Brown hair. Sweet. Quiet. Trusting. They pulled up missing persons reports from the past year across northern Oregon and southwestern Washington. 4 other young women had gone missing since September. 2 were found dead, dumped in rivers or ravines, but 2 had vanished without a trace. And the worst part? Nobody had connected the cases. Until now. Blank. Underscore. Blank. By that evening, the case had a new task force name, Operation Birchwatch. Nathan set up a dedicated line for public tips. Posters of both Emily and Haley went up side by side across coastal towns. The media ran with the update. Astoria abduction may be linked to other missing girls. That night, Claire drove to Cannon Beach alone. She needed to see where Haley had vanished. Needed to feel the sidewalk beneath her feet. Needed to see the route from the diner to the apartment complex Haley never reached. 10 blocks. 3 dim streetlights. 1 alley. And across the street from the alley was a bus stop bench. The same one from the grainy footage. Claire sat there for 15 minutes. Imagined the red hat, the eyes behind the sunglasses. The smile, the soft voice. Hey, need a ride? She shivered. When she returned to her car, a text was waiting from Nathan. Brody's old phone just pinged off a burner tower. Lincoln City, southbound. 7:21 p.m. He's moving again. Claire typed back 2 words. Let's hunt. The sign for Timber Pines Motel flickered weakly in the evening fog. It sat on the outskirts of Lincoln City, nestled between a shuttered pawn shop and an old seafood diner that reeked of grease. The kind of roadside stop where no one asked questions and the front desk clerk didn't care if you paid in cash or kept the blinds shut all day. Claire and Nathan pulled up just before 10 p.m. They had gotten the tip barely 2 hours earlier from a gas station attendant off Highway 101. Guy came in around 6:30. Bought smokes and a 6-pack. Said his name was Rick. The clerk had said he was wearing this beat-up red hat and looked nervous as hell. Paid in small bills. Didn't make eye contact. Told me he was staying at Timber Pines. Room 16. It was the first real lead in days that felt alive. Claire stepped out of the car and adjusted her holster. The air smelled of rain-soaked asphalt and damp pine. Nathan was already speaking with the motel manager, an elderly woman with silver hair in curlers and a cigarette dangling from her lips. He checked in around 6:40. She muttered, paid for 1 night, no ID, just cash, told me he didn't want cleaning service. She handed over a key. Room 16, far end of the building, right before the tree line. Claire and Nathan moved fast, flanking the door with guns drawn. Nathan knocked once. Mr. Brody? Police. No answer. Claire nodded. Nathan kicked. The door cracked inward, slamming against the wall. They entered low and fast, clearing left. Then right. Empty. The bed was unmade. Sheets tossed. A half-eaten granola bar on the nightstand. A soda can. Cigarette ash. But no sign of Jimmy Brody. Claire scanned the room. Then she froze. On the table near the window was a spiral notebook, a folded road map, and a Polaroid, face down. She picked it up with gloved hands. Heart pounding. It was a photo of Emily. Eyes wide, cheeks stained with tears, duct tape over her mouth. Her lavender blouse was dirtied and wrinkled. She was in a confined space, wood-paneled behind her. A van? Claire turned away, bile rising in her throat. Nathan carefully unfolded the map. Red X's dotted the Oregon coastline. Cannon Beach, Astoria, Newport, Florence, all towns with recent missing persons reports. But one stood out, circled 3 times in thick black ink. Coos Bay. Claire pointed. He's planning something else. Soon. Nathan flipped open the notebook. The handwriting was tight, jagged. She cries less now, doesn't talk, just stares. But they always break. And when they do, it's so quiet, like falling snow. Claire clenched her fist. This is a kill journal. Nathan nodded grimly. He's documenting, remembering, reliving. Classic psychopathic behavior. Claire took another breath and studied the photo again. She's still alive in this. She has to be. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Back at the station, the Polaroid was scanned, enhanced, and time-stamped. It had been taken 26 hours earlier. The paneling behind Emily was a match to the interior of a 1999 Chevy Tahoe. Same model they had flagged in earlier sightings. The FBI issued an Amber Alert. Although Emily was technically no longer a child, they pushed it through under extenuating circumstances. Every screen from Portland to Eureka lit up with her face that night. The media exploded. Emily Hartman confirmed alive. Photo found in abandoned motel room. Suspect still at large, maybe connected to multiple missing women. Coastal manhunt underway for Red Hat killer. Locals in Lincoln City began reporting sightings, half-truths, rumors, paranoia. Every man with a red cap became a suspect. Nathan warned, it's going to get messy. The more pressure we apply, the more unpredictable he becomes. But Claire didn't care. He's still got her. That's all that matters. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 3 hours later, a patrol officer combing through local security footage caught something chilling. A traffic camera near the southern exit of Lincoln City picked up the 1999 Tahoe at 10:37 p.m. Barely 30 minutes after Claire and Nathan had raided the motel. Inside the vehicle, a man, and what looked like a figure slumped in the backseat. Head down, not moving. Direction. Southbound, toward Coos Bay. Claire slammed her fist into the dashboard. We were this close. Nathan grabbed his phone. Issue a statewide bolo. Roadblocks. Troopers. We're cutting him off before he hits the next town. Claire stared at the grainy still image. Emily was alive, but for how much longer? Coos Bay slept uneasily that night. As word of the Red Hat suspect reached the town, tension spread like wildfire. Residents double-locked their doors. Flashlights flew off store shelves. Mothers checked in with daughters twice. 3 times. Fathers left porch lights burning through the night. The manhunt was now active across 4 counties. The 1999 Tahoe hadn't reappeared on any traffic cams since Lincoln City. That meant one thing to Claire Ramirez. He was hiding somewhere off the grid. Somewhere remote. Somewhere he'd used before. Campgrounds. Forest roads. Abandoned lots. And it just so happened, Coos Bay had all 3. At 12:18 a.m., a call came in from a campground off Cape Arago Highway, nestled along the coastal cliffs just west of town. It was from a woman named Monica Dupree. She was shaking as she spoke to the dispatcher. My power's out. There's no lights back here. I think someone cut it. My dog's barking like crazy. And I heard something. Screaming. A girl. I swear it. Police arrived at Lighthouse Point Campground within 20 minutes. The power line to the rear cabins had been slashed. Literally cut with a blade. Officers found tracks, boot prints, heavy treads, heading into the dense pine woods behind the property. K-9 units picked up a scent immediately. Claire and Nathan were called to the scene at 12:59 a.m. The Tahoe had not been found, but there was reason to believe the suspect had moved on foot. If he had Emily, she'd be with him, vulnerable, possibly injured, or worse. The forest here was darker than Birch Street. The canopy overhead sealed out the moon. Flashlights were near useless, just narrow cones of pale light swallowed by the fog. At 1:41 a.m., the first scream echoed again. This time, clearer, female, ragged, faint, but unmistakable. Southwest Ridge, Claire said into her radio. We're moving in. Go now. Blank. Underscore. Blank. They found her at 1:57 a.m. But it wasn't Emily. The girl lay curled beneath a tarp near a hollow tree trunk. Arms bound loosely behind her with cheap twine. Duct tape hung half-torn from her face. And her lips were split. Mud streaked her shirt. Her knees were raw. She was breathing, barely. Claire rushed forward, cutting the twine with a pocket knife. You're safe. You're okay. Can you hear me? The girl blinked, whimpering. Nathan checked for other signs. No one else in sight. No trail of a vehicle. An ambulance was called, and the girl was rushed back to Coos Bay Medical. Her name, once she could speak it, was Maya Jensen. She was 17, and she had been missing for 13 days, from a town 70 miles inland. Near Cottage Grove, no one had linked her case to Emily's. Until now. Blank. Underscore. Blank. By 4 a.m., Claire sat beside Maya's hospital bed. Her face was pale, voice rasped from dehydration, but her story was clear. He grabbed me outside the gas station, asked if I wanted to make a few bucks cleaning. Then he pulled me in the van, tied me down. She paused, shivered. He kept me in this shed. I think it was underground. It was cold. Sometimes he gave me crackers. Sometimes nothing. I don't remember all the days. I lost track. Claire leaned in. Was there anyone else? Another girl? Maya's eyes fluttered. I think so. I heard someone crying. A few times. Then it stopped. I haven't heard her since yesterday. That was enough. Claire turned to Nathan outside the room. He had both of them. He ditched Maya to run. He's still got Emily. Nathan's face was grim. We're running out of time. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Meanwhile, a ranger named Greg Hastings was checking abandoned trails 6 miles south. At 5:14 a.m., he stumbled upon a recently disturbed patch of dirt near the cliffs. He marked the site, called it in. Within the hour, forensics confirmed human footprints, multiple, male and female, a bloody tissue, and, buried shallow, a cell phone with a shattered screen and dried blood on its corner. It belonged to Emily. Claire's chest tightened. He's on the move, leaving pieces behind. Nathan looked toward the coastline, where the water churned angrily against jagged rock. He's cornered, and desperate. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 6:43 a.m. The Tahoe is spotted again. This time by a highway camera near the California border. The chase is back on. The California state line loomed through the windshield like a silent challenge. Claire Ramirez gripped the steering wheel with both hands, eyes flicking between the road and the GPS. The 1999 Chevy Tahoe had been clocked at 6:43 a.m. by a traffic cam near Brookings, just 20 miles from the Oregon-California border. That was over an hour ago. Now, it was almost 8 a.m., and they were racing time, not just to catch him, but to save Emily, if she was still alive. Nathan Wilkes sat beside her, phone pressed to his ear, coordinating with California Highway Patrol. The CHP had already deployed spike strips further down the 101. Air support was being scrambled from Eureka, but it was still guesswork. He won't take the main roads long. Nathan muttered. He knows he's being hunted. Claire nodded, jaw clenched. He's cornered. That makes him more dangerous. Just then, a call came through the dispatch channel. All units be advised. Officers responding to arrest areas south of Crescent City. Custodian found blood in a bathroom stall and called it in. Single male suspect seen leaving on foot heading eastbound. Claire hit the siren and floored it. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 8:27 a.m. Pacific Pines rest area. The public restroom sat at the edge of a cliffside grove, hemmed in by tall trees and thick brush. The parking lot was nearly empty when Claire and Nathan arrived. Yellow tape was already up, and 2 local deputies stood guard outside the bathroom entrance. Claire ducked under the tape and stepped inside. The smell hit first, metallic, sharp, undeniable. Blood. Inside the second stall, smeared across the white tile wall in thick, deliberate strokes, was a single sentence. You're too late. Written in lipstick. Bright red. Unmistakable. Claire's stomach turned. It's a message. Not just a message, Nathan said quietly. It's a taunt. On the floor below the message lay a pair of zip ties, cut cleanly at the center. A few strands of long brown hair. A bloodied towel. Is it hers? Claire asked. The crime scene tech didn't need long. The lipstick brand is Sweet Peony. That matches Emily's makeup bag from Birch Street. Claire stepped back, trying to breathe. This wasn't just escape. Brody was playing with them. Blank. blank. 9:11 a.m. The search perimeter expanded inland, chasing down reports of a man walking east from the rest stop. A forest ranger reported seeing someone matching Brody's description on an ATV trail near Redwood National Park. He carried a black duffel bag, a rifle slung over his shoulder, and he was alone. Blank. By noon, the case had ballooned to a multi-agency operation. FBI, CHP, local sheriff's offices, park rangers, all tracking one ghost through a forest as large as a small country. Nathan called in drones. Claire demanded scent dogs and thermal imaging. Helicopters swept the trees. Searchers called Emily's name every 20 yards. But the forest didn't answer. Not yet. Blank. 1:42 p.m. Another clue emerged. This time from a camper hiking through a canyon trail off Newton B. Drury Parkway. A plastic photo wallet, half buried in the soil. Inside, several Polaroids, blurry, faded, Emily in various states, sitting, sleeping, curled in fear, and one more photo, a girl no one had seen before. Claire stared at it, early 20s, red hair, pale skin, bruised lip. She was gagged, arms bound with rope. Nathan whispered, "That's not Maya, that's not Emily." Claire said what both of them were thinking. "There's another one. Blank. Blank." Back at the base, Maya Jensen was brought in again. She studied the red-haired girl in the photo for a long time. Then her lips parted. "She was in the room next to mine. We weren't allowed to speak. But I heard her crying for 2 days. Then, silence." Claire sat down, stunned. "How many?" Nathan paced. "How long has this been going on without anyone connecting the dots?" Blank. 2:53 p.m. Eureka, California. At a dusty auto shop, a mechanic named Julio Alvarez called in a tip. A man matching Brody's description had stopped in around 10 a.m. to buy fuel stabilizer and a tarp. Paid cash, wore a red hat, and asked one question before he left. How long till a body starts to smell in a hot van? Julio hadn't answered, thought it was a morbid joke. But when he saw the Amber Alert later, he nearly dropped his wrench. Blank. Claire had heard enough. She looked Nathan dead in the eyes. "We're not chasing a kidnapper anymore." Nathan nodded. "We're hunting a serial killer." The drone hovered like a silent eye in the sky. Nathan stood beside the monitor van, watching the grainy infrared feed as it glided over the canopies of Redwood National Park. Claire leaned in, her breath fogging the glass. "There," Nathan said, pointing to the screen. "Pause. Back 5 seconds." The feed reversed. Tucked between two giant redwoods and almost fully obscured by moss and debris sat a structure, low, rectangular, covered in pine needles and branches. The roof sagged under age and decay. No paved path led to it. Just a faint dirt track, barely visible from above. Claire narrowed her eyes. As that old ranger station, built in the 70s, abandoned since the early 2000s. The tech responded. No power, no radio access. 10 miles from the nearest trail. Claire felt a chill. That's where he's been keeping them. Blank. By 4:27 p.m., the tactical team had arrived at the clearing. The silence was deafening. No birds, no movement. Even the trees seemed to lean inward, as if trying to close around the station and erase it from the earth. Claire, Nathan, and 4 armed agents moved in. The wooden door creaked open under Nathan's boot. The air inside was stale, rot, mold, and something much worse. Blood. Claire swept the flashlight beam across the interior. The station had been converted into a makeshift dungeon. 3 cots lined one wall. Each had restraints bolted to the frame, twine, rope, duct tape. One of the mattresses was soaked through with a dark stain. On the floor beside it, they found a broken hairbrush. Strands of brown hair still tangled in the bristles. Emily's. The walls were covered in scratches. Fingernails. Desperate messages etched into the wood. "Help me. 7 days. I'm still here." On a small folding table in the center of the room sat a wooden cross, 2 twigs tied together with shoelaces. Candle wax pooled around it. Burnt photographs lay in the corner. Pieces of clothing. A Bible, hollowed out. Claire picked it up. Inside, a switchblade and several Polaroids. Neatly stacked. She flipped through them slowly. Haley, Maya, the red-haired girl, Emily, all terrified, all alive. One of them, Emily, had today's date written on the back. Nathan glanced over. That photo was taken recently. Within the last 12 hours. Claire's heart leapt. He's still nearby. Blank. Underscore. Blank. They found no bodies. Just signs of recent occupation. A bloodied towel hung near the sink. A calendar on the wall had only one word scrawled across the date. Cleanse. What the hell does that mean? An agent muttered. Claire didn't answer. She was staring at a torn page taped to the wall. Written in blocky, erratic handwriting. I take what is thrown away. I give it meaning. They cry for God, but I am the only one who listens. Nathan turned to her. He thinks he's righteous. No, Claire said softly. He thinks he's God. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 6:12 p.m. Footprints were found behind the cabin, heading down a steep ravine toward a hidden creek bed. The trail was fresh. Heavy boots. Drag marks. They were moving again. Nathan grabbed the radio. We've got motion. Southbound ravine. Suspect likely mobile. He's moving her. Send backup now. Claire ran after the team. The forest swallowing them whole. Blank. Underscore. Blank. For over an hour, they tracked the prints through mud and moss. Each bend of the path felt closer. Sharper. Adrenaline coursed through Claire's body like fire. Then came the scream. High-pitched. Short. Echoing. Emily. Claire shouted. They burst into a clearing. And there she was. Tied to a tree. Mouth taped. Face streaked with blood and tears, but alive. Claire dropped to her knees. Cutting the rope. Pulling her close. It's okay. We've got you. You're safe. You're safe. Emily sobbed against her shoulder. Body trembling. But Claire didn't relax. Because Brody was still out there. And from somewhere in the trees. A gunshot cracked through the air. The shot cracked like thunder through the redwoods. Claire tackled Emily to the ground instinctively, shielding her with her body as bark exploded from the tree behind them. Nathan shouted into his radio. Sniper fire, East Ridge. Suspect armed. Visual confirmed. Repeat. Suspect armed. 2 tactical agents returned fire toward the tree line. But visibility was abysmal. Fog was thickening, rolling in off the coast in thick sheets. Shadows shifted with every gust of wind. Claire pulled Emily up. Can you run? Emily nodded. Barely. Her legs were trembling. Nathan motioned to an agent. Get her out. Now. West Trail. 2 men escort. Move. Claire squeezed Emily's hand. You're safe. I swear it. Then she turned, drew her weapon, and headed toward the ridge alone. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 6:54 p.m. Eastern tree line. The forest was quiet again. Deathly so. Claire moved slowly, her boots silent on the mossy ground. Every nerve in her body screamed to stop, to breathe, to wait for backup, but she knew Brody. He wasn't going to run. He wanted a final act, a performance, an ending he could script. She found blood on the ferns, small droplets. Fresh. He was wounded. Ahead, through a veil of mist, she saw the outline of a structure, an old fire tower. Skeletal and rusted, half-eaten by vines. Claire approached, gun raised. The creaking above her confirmed it. Brody was inside. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 7:05 p.m. Fire tower interior. The steps groaned under her weight as she climbed. 1 flight, then 2, then 3. At the top, the cabin was dark except for the dim orange light of the setting sun bleeding through warped glass. The smell hit her instantly. Sweat. Blood. Old rust. And he was there. Jimmy Brody. Red hat gone. Shirt soaked with blood from a bullet graze across his ribs. Hair wild. Eyes sharp. He stood at the far end. A rifle pointed at Claire's chest. She didn't flinch. Drop it, Jimmy, she said, voice low and steady. He smirked. You're good, detective, but too late. Always too late. She's alive. We got her. You lost. He stepped forward. Did I? How many others didn't get saved? Huh? You don't even know their names. You're done running. You're done hurting people. I'm not the monster here. He hissed. I only took what was already forgotten. Girls thrown away. Abused. I gave them purpose. Claire's hand tightened around the grip of her Glock. You tortured them. I gave them meaning. His voice cracked. Wild. You wrote, cleanse, on the calendar. Was that her execution date? He nodded slowly. Tonight. Sunset. It had to be. You're sick. Brody laughed. Soft and eerie. I'm the cure. Suddenly, he raised the rifle. Claire fired first. The shot echoed like a cannon. Brody dropped instantly, the rifle clattering across the floor. Blood spread beneath his chest. He gasped, fingers twitching. Will they remember me? Claire stepped closer. No, but we'll remember them. His eyes rolled back. It was over. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 7:41 p.m. Claire stepped out of the fire tower into the fog-drenched forest. Nathan met her halfway. It's done, she said, her voice hoarse. He nodded. Emily's safe. Stable. We'll get her home. Claire didn't speak, just looked up through the trees. Somewhere behind the clouds, the sun was setting, just like he'd planned. But it wasn't his ending anymore. For the first time in weeks, the forest was quiet. No sirens, no screaming, no flashlights sweeping through trees. Just silence. But the aftermath of Brody's reign of terror had only begun to surface. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 3 days later, FBI field office. Eugene, Oregon. Claire sat at the evidence table, surrounded by cardboard boxes, each marked with bold black ink. Brody, James, item log, property seized. Redwood Fire Tower, van, ranger cabin. The catalog was chilling. 4 disposable cameras, 3 spiral-bound notebooks, 1 external hard drive, 27 Polaroids, 10 unknown victims, 12 pieces of jewelry, 1 list titled, Girls WHO Deserved to be Found. Nathan slid 1 photo across the table. We found this hidden in a hollow beam under the fire tower floor. Claire picked it up. It was a photo of Emily, unconscious, hands bound, surrounded by dozens of candles. But it wasn't the scene that haunted her. It was the person behind the camera, visible in the reflection of a cracked mirror in the background. A woman, mid-30s, pale, wearing gloves, holding the camera. Claire froze. This isn't Brody. Nathan nodded. We ran facial recognition. No match yet, but she's real, and she was there. Claire leaned back, a wave of cold nausea sweeping over her. He had help. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Meanwhile, Hartman residence. Astoria. Emily Hartman sat in her bedroom, wrapped in a fleece blanket, watching the sun rise outside her window. Her body bore bruises, her soul, deeper wounds. But she was home. Lindsay brought in warm tea and sat on the bed beside her. You don't have to talk yet, she whispered. Emily turned, voice fragile but steady. I remember, she was the one who cut my hair. Lindsay blinked. Who? The woman. She wore gloves, said I needed to be cleansed. Like I was dirty. Tears welled in her eyes. She was worse than him. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Back in Coos Bay, investigators uncovered a second site, an underground storage bunker hidden beneath a fake rock shed. Inside, clothing, photos, zip ties, and a second hard drive. It held videos, dozens of them. Many showed Brody, but a few showed her. The woman, calm, precise, methodical. In one clip, she gently placed a cloth over a girl's mouth and whispered, Don't cry, you were born for this. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire stared at the screen, fists clenched. She wasn't a sidekick, she said through gritted teeth. Nathan nodded grimly. She was the architect. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 5 days later, Claire's apartment. It arrived in a plain envelope. No return address. Inside was a single photo, taken from afar. It was Claire, sitting alone on a bench, drinking coffee. The timestamp was from 2 days earlier. And on the back, scrawled in tight script, I see you, too. R. Claire's breath caught. She reached for her gun instinctively. Brody was dead, but she was still out there. The envelope had no fingerprints, no DNA, no identifiable fibers, just a message. I see you, too. R. Claire sat in the FBI briefing room in Portland, staring at the enlarged photo of herself on the projector screen. Taken from 50 feet away. Crisp. Centered. Whoever had taken it had been watching. Waiting. Tracking. Nathan Wilkes stood beside her. Arms crossed. Eyes scanning the new timeline on the whiteboard. We ran handwriting analysis. It's a 90% match with the notebook we found in the cabin. The slant. The pressure. The R signature. Claire's voice was low. It's her. She was there the whole time. They'd started calling her R. No one knew what it stood for, real name, alias, religious title. But what they did know was chilling. She had appeared in at least 6 separate photos connected to Brody's hideouts. Always in the background, half-faced, blurred, gloved, a ghost in every room. Blank. Underscore, blank. Meanwhile, Emily's room. Astoria. The nightmares had returned. Emily jerked awake at 3:12 a.m., sweat-soaked, heart-hammering, her scream caught in her throat. Her sister Lindsay rushed in, cradling her gently. It's okay. You're safe. You're home. But Emily shook her head. She was there, she whispered, not just at the end. From the beginning. What do you mean? Emily closed her eyes. The first night, I remember waking up in the dark. I couldn't move, and there were 2 voices. One was his, angry. The other, hers, calm. She said. She swallowed. Don't break her yet. Make her listen first. Lindsay sat frozen. Emily turned her head slowly. She wasn't just helping. She was giving the orders. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Back at HQ, Nathan traced Brody's past travels. Alaska. Montana. Utah. Oregon. In every town. In every case of missing girls. There were whispers of a woman who matched R's profile. A nurse at a women's shelter. A volunteer at a teen rehab center. A woman who offered rides to runaways outside bus stations. Each time she appeared, someone vanished. Each time she left, she erased all trace of herself. Until now. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Clue number 1 came from a bus terminal in Klamath Falls. A clerk recognized the photo of R and remembered her. Said she had dropped off a girl, maybe 14, sometime back in March. Paid in cash, no ID. She said she was her aunt. The clerk added, but the girl looked terrified. Claire leaned over the desk. What happened to the girl? The clerk shook his head. Gone. Never boarded. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Clue number 2 came from a traffic cam on I-5. 3 days after Brody's death. A black sedan was seen stopping at a gas station outside of Redding, California. At the pump, a woman with dark red hair pulled into a bun, wearing large sunglasses and gloves. The plate was fake, but the driver? Facial mapping suggested an 86% likelihood match to the reflection in the Redwood Fire Tower photo. She was alive, moving, watching, and she knew Claire was hunting her. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire's apartment. Midnight. Claire sat alone in her kitchen. Lights dimmed. Gun holstered on her hip. She stared at a second letter that arrived earlier that day. Inside was a Polaroid. Old. Worn. It showed a young Jimmy Brody, maybe 10 years old, sitting on a swing beside a woman. Not his mother, but it was her. R. On the back, it read, I raised him, I made him, and he was just the beginning. Claire put the photo down slowly. This wasn't over. It had never been about Jimmy Brody alone. The tip came from an unlikely source. A retired social worker named Margaret Ellison, now living in Boise, Idaho, called the FBI hotline after watching the press conference about R on the news. Her voice was shaking as she recounted a memory from nearly 30 years ago. I knew her, but not by that name. Back in the 90s, she went by Reverend Rachel. Margaret had worked at a private, religious children's home called Covenant Fields, just outside of Pocatello. It was a remote, donation-funded home for troubled girls, the kind of place that operated on the fringes of the system. Claire and Nathan were on a plane within hours. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 2 days later, Covenant Fields, Idaho. The farmhouse was exactly how Margaret had described it. A weathered 2-story Victorian structure tucked behind miles of forested land. Shutters hung loose. Ivy crawled over the porch. The paint had long since peeled away. It had been shut down in 1999 following allegations of abuse. But no charges had ever been filed. Records were missing. The property had gone through 3 silent owners before falling into abandonment. Claire stepped through the front door. Flashlight raised. The air was stale. The floor creaked beneath every step. The living room still had worn Bibles on the mantel. The kitchen still smelled faintly of bleach. But it was the basement door that drew her. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Inside the basement, the smell hit like a punch, mold, rot, and something older, something human. Nathan followed her down the narrow steps. Weapon drawn. They found 7 metal-framed beds, lined up against the walls. Chains bolted to the floor. Names scratched into the wall beside each bed, first names only. A chalkboard listed chores, punishments, rules, silent time. 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. No crying after lights out. Kneel for forgiveness. Claire stared at a torn photograph nailed to the post above one of the beds. It showed a group of teenage girls, standing in a row. Some were bruised, most looked hollow, and standing behind them was a woman in a long black dress. Face turned to the side, but unmistakable. Reverend Rachel, Nathan murmured. She ran this place. Claire nodded. She didn't just make Brody. She made all of this. Blank. Underscore. Blank. The breakthrough. Fingerprint dusting in the basement led to a match. A real identity. A birth certificate. Her name was Rachel Elaine Carver. Born 1971. Missouri. Ran away from home at 16. Joined an extremist sect in rural Utah by 18. Started Covenant Fields by age 22 under a false identity. She was never legally ordained, but her followers called her Reverend Rachel. And in 1999, after a girl went missing, she disappeared. Claire whispered, "She's been building this cult of silence for decades." Nathan paced the living room. She targeted girls who wouldn't be missed, runaways, abuse survivors, orphans. She trained them, broke them, rewired their minds. Claire finished the thought. And the ones who couldn't be controlled, she killed. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Hidden room. Behind the water heater in the basement, a hollow panel revealed a small hidden space. Inside were dozens of old cassettes. Recordings. Claire picked one up. The label read, Session 14 J. Brody, Obedience. They played it later in the motel. Brody's voice trembled. Young. Maybe 10. "I won't scream anymore. I promise. Reverend, I'll do what you say." A soft woman's voice replied. "Good, Jimmy. God doesn't hear disobedient children. But I do." Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire shut the tape off. The room went quiet. Then she stood. She didn't disappear in 99. She said, she just changed form. She stopped using chains and started using fear. Nathan rubbed his temples. "We need to find her before she starts over." Claire nodded. "She's done this before. She'll do it again." The letter arrived on a Friday morning. It was addressed to Emily Hartman. No return address. Sent through a private courier service that required no signature. Her mother found it on the porch, wrapped neatly in brown paper and twine. Inside the package was a single lock of dark brown hair, tied with black ribbon, a handwritten note on yellowed paper. In neat, deliberate cursive, "You'll never leave me. You carry me now. R." Emily dropped the note and screamed. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire received the call at 7:23 a.m. She was in a briefing room in Salt Lake City, coordinating with local authorities on their newest lead, a women's shelter just outside St. George, Utah, known as the Mercy House. It was run by a woman who called herself Sister Ruth. Photos of her were hard to find, but one surfaced from a charity dinner 2 months earlier, blurry. Taken from behind. The build, the posture, the gloved hands. Claire and Nathan looked at the image for less than a second before saying it together. Rachel. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 10:17 a.m. The Mercy House. St. George. The shelter sat at the edge of town, backed up against rocky red hills. It looked harmless, white picket fences, hanging flower baskets, children's drawings taped in the windows. But to Claire, it radiated menace. The team went in undercover. Nathan posed as a local pastor seeking to refer someone for help. Claire entered through the back, flashing her badge at a young staffer. Rachel Carver wasn't on the property. But her room was. Inside they found journals, pamphlets, religious texts, many rewritten by hand. The walls were lined with biblical quotes about obedience, silence, and surrender. One of the newest residents, a 17-year-old named Cassandra, had vanished 2 nights before. She was not reported missing. Rachel had disappeared the next morning. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 2:45 p.m. Motel room. Salt Lake City. Emily's package was flown in under FBI escort. The hair was sent for DNA analysis. Claire sat staring at a scan of the letter. The handwriting matched previous letters from Rachel, but it was the phrasing that rattled her. You carry me now. Emily was no longer just a victim. Rachel had marked her, emotionally, psychologically, as part of her legacy. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire turned to Nathan. She's not trying to kill her. She's trying to own her. Forever. Nathan didn't answer right away. Then he said, there's something else. He handed Claire a still image from a highway camera in Nevada. Timestamp. 6 hours earlier. A black sedan, tinted windows, and in the passenger seat, a girl with red hair, pale skin, staring blankly out the window. It wasn't Emily. It was Cassandra. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Rachel was on the move again. Claire stood. We end this now. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 7:12 p.m. Nevada border. The sedan was spotted turning off the highway into the Silver Haven retreat. An old mining lodge turned private, faith center. Owned by a fringe religious group, one Rachel had ties to in the early 2000s. The retreat was isolated, surrounded by desert, no cell service, one dirt road in, one out. Claire knew Rachel had gone there to disappear again. But this time, they wouldn't let her. She called in a federal warrant. They moved at dawn. 5:04 a.m. Silver Haven retreat. Nevada. The desert was still in the pre-dawn chill when Claire stepped out of the armored SUV. Ahead of her, the Silver Haven compound emerged like a mirage, 10 weather-worn cabins in a horseshoe formation. A central stone chapel, and an old mine entrance partially sealed with boards. The place had been quiet for years. Until Rachel came back, 30 federal agents moved into position around the perimeter. Claire adjusted her bulletproof vest. Eyes locked on the chapel. Nathan checked his radio. All units in place. Go silent. We breach in 60. A drone swept over the camp. No movement. But Claire knew better. Rachel wasn't running. Rachel was waiting. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 5:43 a.m. The chapel. The front door creaked as Claire pushed it open. Inside, rows of wooden pews lined the room. Candles flickered along the stone walls, casting shadows that danced like spirits. At the altar stood a wooden crucifix, handmade, crooked, and in front of it was Rachel Carver. She wore a simple gray dress. Her hair was tied back in a bun. No makeup, no weapons. She stood with her hands folded calmly at her waist. She smiled as Claire stepped in. Gun raised. Detective Ramirez, she said softly. I hoped it would be you. Claire didn't respond. Rachel tilted her head. You've come a long way to kill a woman with no fight left in her. Claire stepped closer. You think this is surrender? Rachel's smile widened. No, this is rebirth. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Claire motioned with her weapon. On the ground. Hands behind your back. Rachel didn't move. Cassandra's safe. You'll find her under the chapel. 3rd cellar. I made sure she ate. Claire didn't lower the gun. Why her? She reminds me of me. The ones who survive always do. Like Emily? Rachel's eyes sparkled. Ah, my favorite. So much fire in her. So much beauty in breaking. Claire clenched her jaw. You're not a prophet. You're a coward. Rachel stepped away from the altar, slowly lowering herself to her knees. I never ran, detective. I only ever walked toward my purpose. But now, the final piece is done. She turned, placing her hands behind her back, and whispered, I wanted to see you one more time, so I could say it. Claire narrowed her eyes. Say what? Rachel looked up. Thank you for finishing the story. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 6:02 a.m. The cellar. Nathan and 2 agents pried open a hidden trapdoor beneath the chapel rug. Inside, they found Cassandra, alive, gagged, bound, but unharmed. Tears streamed down her face as the agents lifted her into daylight. And just beyond the cellar wall, they found something else. A concrete vault, sealed with steel. Inside, old journals, photographs, names. A list titled, "Those Who Remember Me." Rachel had chronicled every victim, every punishment, every ritual. It was her legacy. And now, it was evidence. Blank. Underscore. Blank. 8:30 a.m. FBI custody. Rachel Carver sat handcuffed in the back of the black van, eyes fixed on the horizon. She didn't scream, didn't resist. She only said one thing as Claire climbed in beside her. "Do you believe in destiny, detective?" Claire stared at her. "No, but I believe in justice." Rachel chuckled softly. "Sometimes they're the same thing." 1 year later, Astoria, Oregon. The town was quiet that morning. Mist hovered above the water, curling through the pine trees like memory. Emily Hartman stood at the edge of the old boardwalk, bundled in a gray sweater, eyes cast toward the horizon. It had been exactly 365 days since she'd come home. Since her name went from missing to survivor. Since the screams had ended. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Emily hadn't spoken publicly for most of the year. The trauma had lived in her throat, lodged like a stone. But today, under the pier where she and Lindsay used to skip rocks as kids, she had agreed to her first interview. A local reporter. Simple questions. No cameras. Just truth. "What would you say to girls who are afraid to come forward?" Emily's answer was soft, but steady. That you're not broken. That even if someone tries to erase your voice, it doesn't mean it's gone. You can still scream. You can still be heard. She smiled, just slightly. "And we're listening." Blank. Underscore. Blank. Elsewhere, Portland. Detective Claire Ramirez sat alone at a memorial service held for the families of the missing. There were 37 names engraved on the granite wall behind her. Most were never found. Some had been laid to rest. A few were still unclaimed. She touched one name lightly. Haley Forrester. Gone but never forgotten. Nathan joined her quietly, handing her a folded envelope. "This came through the hotline today. From Montana." Claire opened it slowly. Inside was a photo, grainy, taken from an old payphone security cam. A girl, thin, pale, red hair, her face dirty, her eyes hollow. But she was alive, and the note beneath it read, "I thought she was dead, but she told me to give this to someone who knew the name Rachel." She said the voice still talks to her. In her dreams. Claire felt her pulse rise. "Who is she?" Nathan asked. Claire stared at the photo. "One of the girls on Rachel's list. We thought she was gone 6 years ago." Blank. Underscore. Blank. Later that night, Emily's bedroom. Emily lay in bed. The window cracked open. Wind stirred the curtains gently. She closed her eyes. Sleep came slowly now, but it came. Sometimes she still heard footsteps in her dreams. Sometimes she still woke, heart pounding, drenched in fear. But not tonight. Tonight, she dreamed of the ocean. Of light. Of voices calling her name, not in warning, but in welcome. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Epilogue. Rachel Carver was sentenced to 17 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 2 federal counts of human trafficking and unlawful imprisonment across state lines. She never showed remorse. In her final statement, she simply said, "The world broke them first. I just made them pure." The media called her the prophet of pain. But the girls she tried to destroy? They called each other survivors. And that was the name that would echo louder, longer, and farther than Rachel's ever could.